suppose water charges aren't a bad thing in that they concentrate the minds of users and forces them maybe to think about what is a scarce resource. We're spending in and around 1.2 billion each year in terms of providing water. And what we're seeing, I suppose, is significant tension in terms of the way that the government parties have decided to do it. And personally, from an economic perspective, I don't have a huge difficulty with water charges per se, but I would have some concerns about the way in which they were introduced. We're, I think, the only country to go for mandatory metering. In other words, every house has to have a meter installed. And arguably the approach could have been, had it been different, everybody to have the choice in terms of installing meters. So forget about allocations, forget about allowing people a certain amount before charging. Charge for water, and if the flat rate is high enough, well then what you can do is encourage people to install their own meters at a far less significant cost than the cost that we're currently hearing about in terms of Irish Water and the cost that they're suffering, if you like, but ultimately that we will suffer as fee payers in terms of metering costs. So it's the way really that the water charges have been introduced that arguably for me is the difficulty, and not necessarily water charges per se.
No way, we won't pay! No way, we won't pay! No way, we won't pay!
And the candy, not a penny.
And the candy, not a penny. And the candy, not a penny.
We got together over the household tax roughly 4 years ago because we felt that it was an injustice being put on the Irish people. We were told that our household tax was supposed to be going towards streetlights and libraries, etc., and services. And now the household tax is being used to set up a private company called Irish Water. And the reason we're fighting Irish Water is because this company was set up specifically to privatise water. So the Irish people woke up and stood up and said, no, you are not privatising Irish Water. They tried to say to us that this water was free. Irish Water has never been free. The Irish people have paid their taxes for their water. They've paid for the infrastructure and they've paid for everything to do with water. In fact, if you count the 1.2 billion, and I'm going on government figures on this now, this is their figures, they say between 1.2 billion and 1.6 billion is collected every year through car taxes, which 5% of all car taxes since the 90s have been going to water, and 2% since rates were done away with in the 70s. VAT was raised by 2% to cover the abolition of rates. So they say that 1.2 to 1.6 billion is raised on that. And if you divide that by the average number of households in this country, every person in this country pays an average already of €560. Now that's before this extra charge. So we already pay for water. So we want to clear that myth up. This has nothing to do with people paying for water. This is about setting up a company so that they can have a list of customers, and remember, they always refer to us as customers, not as citizens, not as people, we're customers. So that's all Irish Water is about, privatising the Irish people's water, and we are saying no. We're the only country in Europe that does not have water poverty, and the reason for that is because we pay for a true progressive tax. And Enda Kenny, as a representative of all the people, call us those people. And that's how he refers to anybody on these protest marches, as those people. Well, the people in this room tonight are very proud to say, we are those people. They've called us ISIS, they've called us everything. They've come after us with everything. 4.5 years we're here. Peter Fitzpatrick actually said when we started at the square, there was a handful of us. And he said, oh, they'll only be there for a few weeks. Well, 4.5 years later, and we're still there. And he's feeling intimidated. God help him.
We will fight! Water is a human right! No privatization! Irish water